Number 10. Brawling with a bear. The Warsaw Zoo in Poland had just reopened amid easing coronavirus restrictions when a young drunk man decided to harass one of its residents. For reasons only he can explain, the 23-year-old guest broke into an enclosure belonging to an elderly brown bear named Sabina. Footage captured by onlookers shows the moment the man noticed Sabina curiously approaching him, causing him to panic and jump into the water beneath them. The senior bear jumped in after him, leading to an intense struggle between the pair. Families looked on in horror as the man shoved Sabina's head under the water in an attempt to drown her. The man escaped with minor injuries, while Sabina was left physically unharmed but extremely distressed. A zoo spokesperson said that the intruder was lucky that Sabina was slowed down by old age and didn't share her enclosure with any younger or stronger bears. The bizarre attack happened just 5 years after another zoo-goer entered Sabina's cage and punched her in the head. She bit him in self-defense and he fled the exhibit, leaving a trail of blood behind. When authorities caught up to him, he refused to explain why he invaded the bear's space. The zoo pursued criminal charges in both cases, making it clear that continued attacks on this innocent animal will not be tolerated. Number 9. Fish stabs boy. An Indonesian teenager named Muhammad Idal was fishing with his parents off southeast Sulawesi province a few years ago when a needlefish jumped out of the water and went straight for his head. In a perilously close brush with death, the creature's long, slender snout impaled the 16-year-old's neck and pierced the back of his skull. Muhammad was rushed to the hospital where he underwent emergency life-saving surgery. It took 3 surgeons and 2 anesthesiologists to safely carry out the delicate operation, which required removing the fish's snout without damaging a large vessel in the boy's neck. Shortly after the procedure, a hospital spokesperson told the press that Muhammad was stable but feverish. He was kept under the watchful eye of doctors while he recovered due to a high risk of infection. There are 2 known fatal needlefish attacks on record, including a 10-year-old Hawaiian boy who died in 1977 while fishing with his father, and a 22-year-old Thai soldier who was killed in 2018 when a needlefish pierced his neck during a training exercise. There are also numerous recorded instances of the species causing serious injury to humans. To say that Muhammad was lucky to survive the ordeal is nothing short of an understatement. Number 8. Crushed by an elephant. In what some might call a well-deserved dose of karma, a man in Kerala, India, was crushed to death by an elephant in 2019 when he beat the animal so hard he lost his balance and fell underneath it. 44-year-old Aaron Panakar was trying to get the elephant to lay down while giving it a bath, but the creature was reluctant. He began to fiercely whip the animal with a stick, putting so much force into each strike that he slipped and fell. At that exact moment, the elephant finally sat down, crushing Panakar's head beneath its enormous weight. Surveillance footage shows another man rushing into the enclosure and trying to get the elephant to move with no success. Using a large stick, he eventually managed to nag the animal until it finally stood up. But by then, it was too late to save Panakar, leaving his colleague with no other choice than to remove his lifeless body from the scene. An autopsy concluded that he died instantly. Number 7. Too close for comfort. In 2020, a young Argentinian woman named Lara Sanson was hanging out with her friend's German Shepherd one day when she decided to do an impromptu photo shoot. It wasn't long after she put her arm around the dog and began snapping selfies that the canine suddenly bit her in the face. Lara underwent an emergency 2-hour operation and received 40 stitches around her eye and inside her mouth. She took to Twitter with a series of graphic photos of the attack and her injuries, captioning the post, "A photo shoot goes wrong." Speaking with local newspaper La Nación, Lara said that she didn't initially feel any pain and that she didn't think the dog bit her on purpose. She explained that she might have scared the senior dog or touched the animal's sensitive hip on accident. But she clearly wasn't bitter over the incident and reported that her recovery was going well, aside from some inflammation and difficulties eating, and the dog was thankfully spared from being euthanized. Number 6. Angry alligator encounter. Vicky Remy Baker was enjoying a peaceful day paddle boating at Silver Springs State Park in central Florida last year when a large alligator came straight at her, seemingly out of nowhere. Viral footage shows the 60-year-old trying to push the reptile away with her paddle before frantically trying to paddle away. She screamed at the creature to get away as it continued to follow her. A man off camera can be heard advising Baker to back up and that she had probably made the alligator pretty angry by hitting it with a paddle. Thankfully, she escaped unharmed, but she was left feeling concerned because it was the first time an alligator had pursued her so boldly. Baker shared the terrifying video on social media, along with a caption explaining that the alligator's behavior probably resulted from being fed by humans and learning to associate people with food. She added that this fearlessness made the animal especially dangerous and that he tried to bite her paddleboard. Alligator attacks are incredibly rare, even in Florida, where the population is estimated at 1 gator per 15 residents. Experts put the likelihood of an unprovoked violent encounter at around 1 in 3.2 million. But attacks are admittedly on the rise in the Sunshine State, where the human population is rapidly increasing, bringing people and gators into increasingly close proximity to one another. Number 5. Extreme allergic reaction. Adventurer Bear Grylls is famous for his fearless approach to the wilderness. He's featured in several nature TV programs, which often show him facing off with dangerous animals. But the creature that put him in the most danger was surprisingly small. While filming his Treasure Island series on a remote Pacific island in 2019, the daring outdoorsman plunged a knife into a hornet's nest and yanked out a piece of honeycomb without getting stung. But things quickly went south when Grylls tried to brush a persistent bee off his forehead. The insect stung him, and he managed to play it cool for just a few moments before his face began to swell out of control. He admitted that he was struggling to see out of one eye and pointed out the irony of a bee managing to take him down after he emerged from encounters with crocodiles, alligators, snakes, and other vicious predators. Paramedics rushed to the scene to administer an EpiPen and prevent Grylls from going into potentially fatal anaphylactic shock. He made a quick recovery after receiving the life-saving drug and continued filming the show with a group of contestants who were noticeably more shaken by the incident than Grylls himself. Number 4. Cute but not cuddly. While playing in the front yard of his Detroit Lakes, Minnesota home one day in 2018, 5-year-old Xavier Garza noticed what he thought was a cute, cuddly cat. He tried to pet the animal, and it latched onto his face. The brave little boy fought back, even biting his attacker at one point, and was eventually able to escape from the creature and seek help. His parents rushed him to the hospital, where he received 16 stitches for deep gashes to his face and a rabies vaccine. Xavier described the creature as black with yellow eyes and said that it stared at him before he made contact with it. Based on the evidence, police investigators were confident that a cat was not responsible and that the boy had mistaken some other creature for a feline. They suspected that a raccoon suffering from distemper may have been responsible for the attack. On the other hand, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources Supervisor Rob Baden told local station KVLY that he believed Xavier may have crossed paths with a stray cat. He likened stray felines to wild animals, arguing that they're different from the average lazy house cat. Officials set traps in hope of catching the mystery creature and warned residents to be vigilant about keeping their children away from wild animals. Number 3. Bitten by a beheaded snake. Jennifer Sutcliffe was gardening outside her Corpus Christi, Texas home in 2018 when she spotted a 4-foot, 1.2 meters rattlesnake that had made its way into their backyard. She alerted her husband, Jeremy, who lobbed the reptile's head off with a shovel. When he bent down to pick up and dispose of the creature, its severed head bit him, sinking its teeth into his flesh and releasing all of its venom. Jeremy immediately began having seizures while Jennifer frantically dialed 911 and rushed toward the hospital. But she couldn't get there as fast as she needed to, so she met up with an ambulance and paramedics took over from there. Her husband was ultimately airlifted to the emergency room, where doctors fought diligently to save his life. At first, they weren't sure if Jeremy was going to survive, which understandably came as terrifying and heartbreaking news to Jennifer. He had received 26 doses of antivenom, but his kidneys were failing completely, and things didn't seem promising. Doctors worked tirelessly, administering dialysis and performing skin grafts in an attempt to save his hand that had been bitten. They ended up amputating 2 of Jeremy's fingers. He miraculously pulled through, and to this day, doctors don't know how. A year later, Jeremy was no longer on dialysis, but he still struggled with extensive nerve damage, pain, and other health issues. Jennifer was psychologically traumatized by her husband's near-death encounter. She told local station KII-TV that whenever she went outside, she was extremely jumpy and that she nearly had a heart attack whenever she saw or heard something that could be a snake. Number 2. Mystery Animal versus School Teacher. 77-year-old retired school teacher Brenda Hamilton was taking her daily morning walk in Beaufort County, North Carolina, when she was brutally attacked by an unknown creature. Emergency responders found the elderly woman lying in the road with serious injuries. Sadly, they were unable to save her. Officials performed DNA tests in hope of identifying what type of creature killed Ms. Hamilton. The results ruled out any animals indigenous to the area, leaving a big question mark on who or what the culprit could be. Forensic investigators determined that canine DNA found at the scene likely belonged to a domestic dog breed rather than a wild wolf or coyote, although they admitted that they had no way of telling whether the dog was feral or had human caretakers. Blood spatter evidence indicated that Ms. Hamilton had been attacked by several large dogs. Experts performed further tests on all the known pet canines in the immediate area, but couldn't match the DNA to any of them, leading Beaufort County Commissioner Hood Richardson to doubt the findings. He further pointed out that the scene of Hamilton's death wasn't properly secured, and that any samples gathered there may have been contaminated or compromised. Number 1. Deadly Deer. A 42-year-old sergeant named Victor Asasi recently died from a bizarre medical emergency after trying to approach a wild axis deer outside the presidential palace in Paraguay. The animal pierced Asasi with its horns, sending him to the emergency room, and he died from his injuries. A military spokesperson explained that the non-native deer was a gift to the presidential residence, which is located outside the capital city of Asuncion. The creature is kept in a designated area for wild animals that aren't meant to come into contact with humans. Security footage shows Asasi entering this area during his routine patrol and raising his hand, which provoked the deer. The 24-acre, 10 hectares residence is home to many wild animals, most of which are native species. Frederick Bauer, the wildlife director for the country's environmental ministry, told the press that the axis deer came from India and that the president had consulted the agency before introducing the creature to the property. He also admitted that it's inappropriate to keep exotic animals in captivity, but that Paraguay has no regulations to stop anyone from doing it. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be chased by a rabid raccoon or eat a slice of cake frosted with toothpaste? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.